Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your game, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome back to Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am here with an absent chair, Brian and Cody. What's up, Cody?
Not too much, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So we were getting ready for the show, and true to our brand, true to our name, we had a little incident. I guess not so much me and you, Cody.
Yeah.
But Brian.
Duty called for Brian.
Duty called. His daughter was not ready to go to bed tonight, and we could hear it. You could currently see his mic is muted because she's not happy about it.
World War III is going down in the new house right now.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, right. Brian's in a new location. He probably was ready to introduce. Now we just get to see his crummy chair that's what's peeling.
Yeah.
The leather's just kind of crumbling, but everything else looks great. Little bear, new house, new Brian.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
And he's just not even here.
You would think in that mansion he could just like put her in a different zip code and it'd be fine.
Send her with the butler.
Yeah, right.
What is it? What's the au pair?
Au pair.
Send her with the au pair.
I only know that from the Adam Sandler movie. It's got all the guys in
Mr.
it.
Deeds?
No,
Grown-ups.
Grown-ups, yeah. They have the au pair.
You have Fiji or something like that.
Yeah.
They had like
Moss
that
water.
real. That's it. Fiji's expensive to me. That's $3.90 a bottle. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Tap water, like from a hose.
I actually like hose water though.
That's an interesting thing to like. It's not like like specifically bad. That's an interesting thing to like.
Yeah, I don't go out to my backyard and then I fill up a pitcher of it and bring it in and put it in the
That's what I was picturing. Like at
3
3:00 every day, you just go stick your head under the back faucet.
No, but like cutting the grass. I'm cutting. Hose is right there. I don't mind it already.
You don't take water out with you. You'll hose it.
I'll hose it, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I let it run, so it's not completely like I know I'm probably getting
it's not saturated in the hose like.
Yeah, it's not like I wait till it gets cold, right? Because if it's warm, that means it's been sitting.
Right.
All right, enough about that. But we did have a funny story that we were hoping that Brian would be here for now. So that's kind of how we've been but we're gonna tell it anyways and let him watch later.
It was pretty bad.
He'll have to be in on it. So we're setting this up again. This was probably one of our tougher pre-shows, like apparently. New platform. We're over to StreamYard. And just trying to get the hang of things, right? Making sure that everything's working properly. We love how crisp it looks. Cody calls me. He's like, hey, how do I get on here? Like, I don't got a link and I don't really know exactly where to go. So I'm telling him. And we're like talking and I put my phone down and I'm still doing my notes and I'm still making sure everything looks good.
And same for me. I got my headset on. So we're both just talking through our headsets, basically.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna use because we have a password section in our Google Drive. He's like, I'll use that. And I'm like, no, I could walk you through it. Don't worry about it. I'll just tell you what it is. And I'm telling him, and we're just kind of conversing. And he hops on. He's talking. I'm talking. He's like, I can't hear Brian. I'm like, I don't know what is going on, dude. Like, what's going on with StreamYard that you can't hear him? And Brian could hear him, but he could not hear Brian. And so we close out the browser. Cody closes it. Brian closes it. Brian's already having some headphone issues. A good 3 minutes passes.
Yeah.
And then I hear beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, who did I just butt dial? Who did I just call on accident? Because I was touching my phone and I realized. And it was probably when you realized, Cody.
Yep.
You were on the phone call the whole time
Still
talking
on the
through your
cell phone.
headset.
So the entire
Yes.
time that you could hear me and Brian couldn't, it wasn't actually because you were picking up my audio in StreamYard. I was just talking to you on the cell phone. No idea I was doing so.
You're like, yeah, because the audio of your phone call went to your headset.
Yes.
Which then made you only hear me and not Brian. It was too funny.
Yep.
Maybe probably more complicated than people really care to hear, but we will get started with some news.
Yeah.
And I think I'll remove Brian's little screen right now until he gets back. Cody, Debo received a huge extension.
Yeah.
Did make him the top 3 paid, right?
Pretty much tied with the other guys this offseason, as in AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. They got incredibly similar contracts. That 25 million per year is sort of apparently the number for the top end receivers right now.
An interesting note about this too was there was no discussion or clause or I don't know how else to phrase it, but nothing about his rushing attempts necessarily in this new contract.
I think they threw enough money to make it go away. I mean, at 25 million a year, you better birth a football if I want you to.
So then when you're saying that, does this change your rankings of him or are you still,
I was a guy who
low?
hadn't, I don't think I'm as low as a lot of you have been. I hadn't necessarily, I think I downgraded Debo in the sense of, I think last year was hard to repeat, not in the sense of that I was really worried about the contract yet. So I hadn't really maybe accounted for that in my rankings. I think I've still got him, 7 or 8. Maybe I slide him up a smidge, but I wasn't really accounting for that too much in my rankings. I was more putting a natural regression into it based on the efficiency from last year. And even, especially the efficiency in the rushing touchdowns. It's on that number of carries and the rushing TDs he had. It's a hard repeat, even if he's still going to get those carries with this new
once
contract.
Per 8, right?
It was bonkers.
I still have a tough time seeing him get that many rushing attempts this year. I don't care if it was in the contract or not. I still have injury concerns. I have Trey Lance concerns now, who will also be using rushing attempts. We have a healthy RB backfield that will also be actually able to run the ball. Yes, I think Debo is going to run the ball. I don't think I want to say it was 64 attempts last year. I don't think it's going to be that again. I have so many other concerns, but that is from that standpoint, that's all I'll say right now. Oh, interesting.
Does this make him real quick? Does this make him a wide receiver 1 for you? No.
I have huge concerns, and it's not fair because I bake into his projections more than I do with anybody else.
As in injuries, you mean?
Injuries, but yes, the efficiency. So, but the injuries concern for me. When you're healthy, when you're hurt 5 out of your 7 playing years, since we know, like college, that gives me some concern. House said Debo does have some incentives for rushing yards and TDs. That's good to know. I did not realize that. Deshaun suspended for 6 games. I would say this is less than the whole football community was expecting. It kind of at the tail end there started seeming like it was getting less and less. Fantasy. Let's just go from a fantasy perspective. First, this is such a tough question. Are you going to draft Deshaun anywhere?
He needs drafted.
Yeah, but so when you're missing 6 games, you'd be playing 11, right? I'm doing that math right. Where are you comfortable taking him at this point? Because it's got to be past 10th round still.
Let me phrase maybe that I'm drafting him, or you need to draft him another way. If you draft, Josh Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, obviously you're probably not going back to the trough for a guy like Deshaun at that point. I wouldn't imagine. I think Deshaun is a perfect grab for the person who's drafting, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford. I'll say Jalen Hurts, and I know you won't like that. But the QBs that, we have some belief in terms of their for sure top 12 upside and maybe more, but there's still that window where like, this might not be my guy this season, I think those are the people that should be targeting Deshaun. And I think if you're going to want to pair them up, you're going to have to take him very close to where you're taking your starter. If you're going to go for one of those lower tier 1 QBs, maybe you're talking round 8 and 9, round 9 and 10.
Rich, man.
Think about it this way, though. Look where D-Hop's going missing 6 games. I'd much rather have Deshaun at QB than D-Hop at receiver. No suspension.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there for now. Fantasy relevance. I don't change Amari I have him lower. I had this baked into his, but I may take more shots at Njoku
DPJ.
and Bell and
Oh,
DPJ.
Bell over DPJ. Okay.
I'd probably go DPJ first. You're right.
I think we're going to see a Will Fuller signing, and that'll be mildly interesting to me, at least for as long as he's healthy.
You think as a Brown?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Let's cut. I'm going to jump Lenny Fournette down to 245. We're going to go quick there. Happy about it. He's back to. I think we all overreacted. I don't know how overreacted, how much.
Easy with the term all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how much. It was weird, but this was quick. James Washington carted off field today, out 6 to 10 weeks. This is where I expect Will Fuller to land.
It's a good landing spot.
I think it is. I think it's a great landing spot.
Here's my Will Fuller, and I'll take this situation out of it. Here was my Will Fuller theory. There's been all the rumors all offseason there was mutual interest. Obviously, Will Fuller has done well when healthy with Deshaun Watson. And obviously, the Browns have a need at wide receiver too. Even if you have some faith in Bell or DPJ, you're talking one of the lower tier wide receiver twos in the league, no doubt about it. That wide receiver core is thin right now. I think, in my opinion, probably both Will Fuller and the Browns were waiting to see what the suspension looked like. Will Fuller wasn't going to sign here if he was going to play with Jacoby Brissett this year.
And they probably weren't going to sign him for more than a year anyways.
That's exactly right. And so I think both sides want to see the Will Fuller and Deshaun Watson connection. And that's kind of my theory. But you're right. It's a great landing spot here. We're talking.
It's interesting, too, is that there was a report out today that multiple teams are interested and they're kind of monitoring the situation right now. Yeah. Don't know who fed that information, but I wouldn't be surprised. There was a lot of things going on with the NFL today, the Deshaun news being one of them. And then also I find that Dallas would be a great fit for him. He spreads the field. You open up plays for CD and Dalton Schultz. That gives your ball carriers, Zeke and Pollard, some more running room. I think they need some depth. So I wouldn't. And Will Fuller, yes, he's injury prone out. We don't know what to expect out of him. And yeah, I think we believe injury prone more than a lot of people, but it just, he reminds me of a Jerry Jones type of player. Like he's flashy. He's big play.
He's highly effective when he's on the field. Highly effective.
Last bit of news, Kamara's hearing rescheduled for September 29th. So the discount days may be over. This to me, I'm no legal professional, says we won't see a suspension until next season.
I was going to say, and I'll be honest, I'm not completely up to speed on this news as of today. I haven't gotten a chance to really delve into what other people think this means. But there was another player this happened to a handful of years ago. It might have been Zeke, to where something happened either early in the season or mid-season, and the suspension took place the following year. Is it Zeke that I'm thinking of? Or is it someone else?
I really can't remember now. I know I think when we did this in 2019, Cody, I think we talked a lot about Zeke that year, but I can't remember now.
I think it might have been him. And I think that's a good guess on your part. Like I said, I don't feel confident or educated enough from, the way the NFL would hear, because the criminal activity obviously took place in time. The hearing is really the question. Whereas like if the criminal activity took place in season, it's very, very hard to analyze it. Whereas I think in this one, you've had a good bit of time, but I think it's a good guess on your part.
Yeah. I haven't targeted him even with the discount. There's just guys where I don't know. Like this is value that I passed up and now it won't be there. And I kind of regret that. And I'm thinking best ball because I'm not really drafting redraft leagues right now. I'm thinking best ball.
And dynasty, the years are getting there. So you're not ecstatic about Alvin and dynasty per se. So I agree. I'm still going to struggle in redraft because like how high do you think he goes now? If people say, okay, I don't think he's getting suspended, if that's the stance, is he?
I think he goes
12?
in second now. No, I think he goes second.
Well, sorry, top 12 running backs.
Oh, I probably.
Yeah.
Let me and we'll get into our meat and potatoes here. Let me just try to get his ADP real fast.
It's gonna be so skewed right now, but
it will be. But I just want to see how close we are to top 12. He is going. He's already going. It's showing RB10 on here. Yeah.
Eek.
Yeah, he goes a little bit before Javonte. So I could see him popping up to RB. He probably passed Chubb. Would I take him over Chubb? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, we're probably at the exact same spot on him. And it means we're not going to own much Kamara because it's a big enough name that if there's not really much of a threat of a suspension, people are going to be on him.
Yeah. let's kick it over to our NFC North mythology. I'm going to freaking list all the way through here. NFC North divisional breakdown. We're going to start off with the Chicago Bears. So Brian is typically our Reddit scoundrel. Sure. So he finds all these things on Reddit. This is pretty cool though. So I don't know if you guys have heard I don't know if it's confirmed. Chicago is moving their dome. I want to say, it's Arlington. It might be in Arlington Park right now. Here's the renderings, which is it looks really good. I want the Browns to come up with a new dome, man. I am ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely gorgeous. These football stadiums have gotten completely crazy the last, I guess decade, 5 years for sure.
They really have. Like the Las Vegas one looks so good.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to kick off instead of going through these pictures right now. I'm just going to start kicking off with the most important question about this team. Mm-hmm. So the Chicago Bears, obviously, first team we're diving into here for. Is Justin Fields going to make a second-year leap this season? I mean, he has a new head coach. It's going to be a completely new offense. No weapons outside of Mooney and Kmet. What are we thinking there?
I think this is going to be a passive take, which is kind of boring. I think he's going to make enough of a jump that it's still his job, but not enough of a jump that anybody is chasing these fantasy assets because of Justin Fields, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, I mean, Justin Fields is like your off-brand right now. Like, you get Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Then you downsize a little bit. You go to Trey Lance, which verdict is still out. And then you could go even later to the Justin Fields and Danny Dimes, the tier 3 of the rushing quarterbacks, who goes anywhere from 17 to 22 areas of QBs.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Well, and I was just going to say, it's one of those things where I guess when I say he makes enough progression, I want to temper what I'm saying. So I think he'll be better than last year, but there's almost not a world where you're worse than last year and you're still in the NFL. I mean, he completed like 58% of his passes, I think, and he had like 7 touchdowns in 12 games. We're talking passing, not rushing. He was worst in the NFL in a lot of ways as far as starting quarterbacks go. And so, that leap that I'm talking, maybe it's 22 passing touchdowns. We're not talking,
but the rushing upside,
the rushing upside's there. I think he had 420 yards last year, maybe 440. And he played 12 games. So, he's got 600-700 yard rushing upside. That's definitely there.
And that changes a lot of things, in my opinion. I think you get a guy like Justin Fields running the ball, doing some RPOs, doing some bootlegs. They just start throwing better. Like you get them going. And it seemed like Nagy had no clue how to use him. I don't think he had any say in this draft pick.
Yeah, he was
for that reason.
Said work with it. Yeah.
The offense wasn't designed for Justin Fields last season.
Yeah.
I would expect it will be this year.
Do you see a leap? What are you feeling?
I do. Have I been getting him? No, because I think I am very much a QB 10 through, and maybe even QB 8. I take a QB when I don't like something else. So I never necessarily get to that low.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I'm not in the camp of taking him as a starter. I think it's an upside swing. I don't envision a scenario where you're targeting him as a starter in my mind.
Yeah, this is the head coach is, if I'm not mistaken, I can never say his last name, Eberflus or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he comes from Green Bay. I'm going to go to the next side of the ball let me show you this because this was interesting, I thought. Khalil Herbert said that the Bears coaching staff are really good teachers and they sometimes play Kahoot during meetings to make things fun and make it a competition. I love the staff and how they teach us. It's next level. So it's always good hearing that from one of your players because obviously you want them to be happy. You want them to trust the coaches. So it's already starting to change that dynamic and change that culture. You can't expect like this offense to just become talented out of nowhere because they don't have enough pieces. But when we're talking about Justin Fields, we're looking at pass catchers like Darnell Mooney or Cole Kmet. Pretty much past that, we're not. Cody, you and I don't even think Brian are taking any dart throws on any of these guys. No Velas Jones, no N'Keal Harry, no Byron Pringle. We're not.
No.
But what do
wide
you
receiver
feel about,
2 wasn't anything last year in this offense.
Technically, it was A-Rob, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
What are you feeling about Darnell Mooney? And then after that, how do you feel about Cole Kmet?
Yeah. Darnell Mooney, somebody I've had some love for since last year. I know, he
140 targets.
140 targets, 81 catches. So the catch rate is good, not great, but 13 yards per catch. Really even last year when you're putting up 1,000 yards with 81 catches, he was really touchdowns away from being a really, really nice fantasy player. And he was useful in fantasy last year, but he was missing a few more scores. He had 4 touchdowns. And so, that's when you start looking for, and same for Cole Kmet. I don't think he scored a touchdown last year, correct?
He had 0.
Well, but I mean, when the team had 7 to go around, it's understandable.
That's a good point.
That's kind of where I'm, even if Justin Fields has a little bit of jump, I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm not necessarily chasing assets because I think there's going to be a jump, but I think for assets to even return what we think is going to happen, he has to take some kind of leap. You need 6 or 7 Darnell Mooney TDs. You need 4 or 5 at least Kmet TDs. And so I'm in on both of these players. Kmet, thanks to you because of the work that's there. And Mooney, someone I really, really like. There's been a ton of just good talk about what a hard worker is and all those kind of things over the past couple of years. I think he earned himself this number 1 wide receiver gig. So I guess all that to say, I'm in on both. Mooney, I've got borderline top 18, real close.
This is year 3 for both of them. We don't necessarily, the year 3 wide receiver is kind of a thing of the past, but it used to be something that you would see. Tight end, not so much, but Cole Kmet, 23. He
Mooney's
had 93 targets. Mooney's 24. If we're expecting Justin Fields to increase a bit, throw some more touchdowns, you said 22. We're not expecting a ton from much else on this offense.
We're not, but it'll be enough for these guys.
We're expecting these guys to be loaded with volume.
Yeah.
So these are one of those, like, I am going for pure volume here. I'm drafting these guys for pure volume.
Yep.
I do think Mooney's talented. I do think Kmet has shown flashes of talent, but it's a lot of volume that we're chasing here.
Yeah.
I think Mooney has showed a lot though.
Yeah. I think Kmet, you're chasing volume more than Mooney. The only reason I say that is because at 23, a tight end is such a slow position to mature a lot of times. And even last year, you really just saw him survive because of receptions. It was the workload. And so to say, hey, this is a good tight end. Maybe. I don't think we know what he's going to be yet. He's a 23-year-old tight end. They just take a while. So you're really banking on the volume with him and the receptions and hoping for some TDs. Mooney's a nice football player. Mooney's a really, really nice wide receiver.
He is. And him and Justin Fields have a good thing going right now.
Oh, yeah.
My fear is, like, come next year, if they completely blow this year, Fields won't be their starting quarterback. That's probably the reality. And sometimes it seems like that's what they're setting him up for with the receivers that they surrounded him with. David Montgomery is another interesting player to talk about because he has some value, right? Like, he's not drafted super high. He goes right around Zeke, right around Cam Akers, right around Gibson. Finished RB19 last year, and weirdly, RB19 points per game. So, because he only played 14 games.
Okay. Yep.
I want to give a stat, and then I'll ask my question. He was and this is a loose stat because this is what we know, and I remember this happening last season. So, bear with me. RB15 on weeks 9 through 14.
Okay.
I pulled those weeks out because Nagy wasn't calling the plays. Nagy, there's proof that Nagy stopped calling the plays at the Lions game all the way until like December 20th. It said he started calling them again. Last piece, not included in weeks 9 through 14 because I didn't want to do the manual math, is David Montgomery. The first game, it was the Lions game, went 23 for 106, 2 TDs. So that was the first game that Nagy wasn't calling the
plays. Right.
Gets hurt. So he misses I think that's about 4 games, and then come back week 9 through 14 is why I got the RB15 there. So that doesn't even include his big game. And then coming off of injury, he still was RB15 in that small window. I know we're pulling a little thing out here.
Yeah.
this is something that I preached to Brian last year. I was like, get Nagy to stop calling the plays and Montgomery will have value again.
Mm-hmm.
So all that being said, I think I'm buying Nagy at this price. Do
And
you
Montgomery.
expect a better outing? Yeah, sorry. Did I say Nagy?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
selling Nagy. I'm selling Nagy to the fishes. Montgomery.
Yeah. Do you have ADP? He's my RB14, so I'm definitely buying. I'm high on
RB17.
him. Yeah.
Here, like we could do it. You want to do a quick would you rather?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, then let me get our cool.
Would you rather?
Okay. James Conner or David Montgomery?
David Montgomery.
Zeke or Monty?
I'm falling back in love with Zeke, and I feel gross about it, but I think it's Monty.
Monty or Cam Akers?
Oh my gosh. Why don't you answer that one? I want to hear you answer that one.
It's easy, Monty.
Yeah. Okay.
Cam
I mean,
Akers
Cam
all
Akers
day.
is. Oh.
That's the closest. That's
Yeah.
him and Zeke. Antonio Gibson or Monty?
Monty.
Last one, Josh Jacobs or Monty?
It's Monty. So here's
Wait, let me go further. Let me go further actually,
Yeah.
because you were so Monty there. Barkley or Monty?
Monty.
Ooh. Leonard Fournette or Monty?
There's the line.
That's the
It's
line.
Lenny. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
I noticed something with that group. And I think maybe Montgomery's an end of a tier in a certain way, not necessarily rankings. The guys you were listing off in terms of, Josh Jacobs and some of the others, they all to me have some kind of threat for work, whether it be, a rookie and Josh Jacobs and he wasn't given a contract. List off a couple of the others. Zeke, you got Tony Pollard there. Who are a couple of the others that we did earlier?
Cam Akers.
You
Antonio
got Daryl
Gibson.
Henderson, Antonio Gibson. You've got three guys vying for work. David Montgomery was the only guy of that group where he's the bell cow to me.
And some people would argue that because they saw flashes of Khalil Herbert last season.
Flashes of 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
He didn't look bad. That's where people also are like concerned about David Montgomery as well. Though.
And maybe
they do.
Maybe that's why I'm high per se, is I don't necessarily see that threat. And so to me, he's the only guy in that group that I don't have that question about. I would question the offense far more in David Montgomery's case than I would the workload.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I could pull up real quick where Khalil Herbert finished while Monty was out. RB18, so he didn't do much better. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you're going to grab David Montgomery, you're probably going to want to snag Khalil Herbert a little bit later in drafts. I think that's one of those handcuffs that I probably would, because I think there's some upside there. I know, Cody, you don't like handcuffs at all.
I'm okay with handcuffs depending on the team. Here's the thing. I don't like running backs in bad offenses usually. So I'm going against myself a little bit with Montgomery, but I just think the work's all there. So when you give me a guy like Khalil Herbert, who I don't necessarily believe in as much as a player on a bad offense, that's like a meh situation, even if he gets the job. He's 4.2 yards per carry last year. He only had 103 carries, but 2 touchdowns, not much receiving work. I mean, he played all 17 games. He only had 14 catches. I just didn't see what other people saw. I'm just not there on Khalil. And so I can be a handcuff guy depending on, if I think there's a clear-cut number 2 and the offense is good. That's a handcuff I'm interested in. But do you think Khalil's a handcuff you're chasing this year, especially if you get Monty?
It's a cheap one. It's one of the cheaper ones that, like, I guess you're making good points though, because is this really the offense that you're going to want to handcuff on? And maybe it's not. Maybe
if I say it's an average running back on a bad offense, maybe it's a low end RB2. I know he was 18 last year, but I think
I do think you're discounting him a little bit.
Yeah,
because let me read you these.
Sure.
The 4 games when Monty was out: 18 for 75, not bad. No TD.
Good.
19 for 97, 1 TD. 18 for 100, no TD. 5 for 33 on that game. So he put up 133 yards that game. 23 for 72. So those are pretty solid games. Like, lacks touchdown. Yeah. Everybody on this offense does.
Yeah.
And I mean, he showed he catches the ball in one of those games. You at least know that it's possible.
Maybe he's a guy who, because there's guys like this where they heat up throughout a game. Maybe he's that kind of guy, because when I see that he had 4.2 yards per carry on the season, you listed me off games far in excess of that. So it makes me think in games where he, wasn't the starter, he was very, very bad on just a handful of carries. He almost had to have been.
Yeah, and it was the game against, 23 for 72 probably killed him a lot too, because that was a huge portion of his.
Less than 3.
That was against,
No,
that's against
about
San.
3. Yeah.
It's 3.13. It was against San Fran though. So I mean, like that's a little
that's fair. I
harsh.
can give that. Yeah.
All right, we spent enough time on Khalil Herbert. I probably will kind of take a stab at him, and I might even do that if I miss on Monty. I think he's kind of one of those, you miss on some RBs, you have him stash him on your bench if you have the room.
He's probably,
you need to get those RBs if you're missing there.
Yeah. Last night in a draft, I know you like this one, but I took Williams with, James Conner. I didn't have James Conner, but I took Williams in Arizona. So I know that's a guy you like. So I think it's a better offense, but I think it's not necessarily a different situation in terms of, I think they are
comparable.
I'm not going to say necessarily comparable. I just see as far as the running game goes, I think it's.
I don't know if Darrell gets the full work if
that's
James Conner was going to go out, but Herbert I think would. At least
I kind of think Darrell's going to get the job too. That's where I was going with it. I look at them in that way, and neither of them are offenses that I'm ecstatic for running backs. I know Arizona's a better offense, but running back productivity outside of James Conner's touchdowns hasn't really been their forte the last few years.
Yeah, he wasn't. But Darrell could carve out. Let's not get on to this, but I think he can carve out the passing work. But I see what you're saying. Kind of.
Oh,
did you love this?
I honestly,
or did you hate it?
I like it a lot. I see I think it's good for Aaron Rodgers.
Do you?
I do, and here's the reason. I just think Aaron Rodgers over the last few years has gotten such a tainted image, and
man,
I just feel like this is kind of like those, like, oh, okay, he's kind of cool. Now I know it's Nicolas Cage, but
for viewers, we're showing the picture of Aaron Rodgers coming into training camp
in the wife beater with the long hair.
I just thought it was so dramatic, dude.
Yeah, so you hated it, huh?
I kind of think you're talking about people not liking him, and I just feel like he's always making headlines for all the world. No, he's an amazing football player. He's just so he's kind of off the deep end at this point. We had a whole camera, a little slow motion, toss the bag. What are these dramatics that's going on?
Yeah. No, that's, the other, it's sort of comparable for me. I think this will make sense. It's kind of like a couple years ago when he was at the NBA game and he's chugging the beer, but he can't get it down. And Bakhtiari is chugging 3 beers in the same time, but he just owned it. And I was like, okay, he's being cool about it. He's making fun of himself, self-deprecating. It kind of gave me okay, that was kind of a cool Aaron Rodgers moment for a guy that I can't really stand. And this felt a little bit like that for me.
Let me go back real quick because I'm pretty sure that you shave off parts of the beard and this dude went for Wolverine. I know, obviously, it's the Con Air Nick Cage.
So you don't, he looked like actually. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
He looked like Wolverine.
That's making my case, though, Mario. You sure you want to go there?
It's just annoying to me.
Yeah, I can see where it's annoying, no doubt.
Never seen it. Thomas said he's really taken a heel the last few years. Kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
Kind of feel the same. He just annoys me in general.
I can absolutely see why you feel that way.
Yeah, he beat my ass. I think so.
I don't know. You take
although it was interesting to see that Nicolas Cage looked more jacked than he did in that. And he's the football.
Oh, see, I didn't think so. I thought Aaron Rodgers actually
does.
I thought Aaron Rodgers actually didn't look that soft in that picture.
No, he doesn't. But
yeah,
look at that. He's jacked. You can't. This picture's not great, but Nicolas Cage was more.
I guess that's true. I guess maybe I just thought Aaron Rodgers looked more muscular here than I expected. Maybe not so much against Nicolas Cage, but I was like, oh my gosh, Aaron Rodgers has traps, kind of.
That's about it though. His arms aren't huge. His traps are big.
Yeah.
All right. Let's kind of go over this team, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
We're gonna obviously kick it off with A-Rod. We all, me, you, and Brian, have them bottom QB1. 11, 12, I think, are all three. So either of ours.
Yeah.
So we're expecting some regression for fantasy. Is this a hot take? Because honestly, Cody, when we posted the pictures of our rankings, this was one of the comments about Aaron Rodgers being so low on our ranks. And granted, this is for fantasy. So maybe there was somebody maybe a little confused. Maybe they thought it was NFL rankings, and that's not the
Right.
case. We think he's an excellent quarterback. He's going to be efficient. Is this a hot take? Because I don't think I need to ask you if you expect him to regress. I see it in your fantasy rankings.
Here's where I struggle. I think because of, and this will go, you and I have debated this some, so it's going to go a little bit against what I say sometimes. I think his style of play for fantasy is very delicate for fantasy production. And so what I mean by that is like, he's putting nothing up anywhere and he throws such low interceptions. Like he has to throw 35 touchdowns if he's going to be what people think he's going to be. And so it's not really a question of, I don't think necessarily like, I don't want to call it a hot take. I think it's a question of, do you see 35 touchdowns in this team? I've got him statted out for 31 touchdowns and 4,500 yards, which I think is low for Aaron Rodgers, but also kind of generous with the weapons that are on
the
this
TDs.
team. Yeah. And that's QB 12. And so because he doesn't have the rushing and with these receivers, you wonder, I mean, he's great, but you can't throw less than 3 picks. Like he throws so few picks. It's not like he can make up ground there. I just think what has to happen for this offense for him to be a top 6 QB is highly unlikely this year.
And a quick question for you. Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr?
I don't want to answer.
Thank you, Albert, for the question. You have to answer. You got to give your answer on this.
It's Derek Carr for me this year. Because,
especially
realistically,
the ADP is a little cheaper.
Here's the thing. Neither of them are rushing. Neither of them are really high turnover guys. Derek Carr more than Aaron Rodgers. So if you say to me, hey, is this Oakland offense with Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller going to throw 35 TDs, or is Aaron Rodgers going to throw 35? Which one's more likely? I think it's Derek Carr.
And you get Derek Carr about a round later. He goes about 106 overall. Aaron
Rodgers is
94.
going cheap enough. I'll say the price is good on him. I'm surprised how cheap he's
QB9.
going. Yeah, I'm
QB9.
surprised he's going that low for being the name he is.
It is, right? But I mean, there was a year where he went pretty late, and then it's just been the last couple of years with Devontae. He hasn't been priced that low. So back to a low price. Got to see what he does on the offense. Speaking of, who we expecting to see come alive in this receiver room? There's been a lot of camp talk about it.
Yeah.
Aaron
I want
Rodgers,
your thoughts on this one, Mario.
Yeah, I love talking about some specific receivers here. Aaron Rodgers on his receivers. I like the guys we got. Big sign of encouraging. It's a word of endorsement to that wide receiver room.
Sort of.
It might be the Tyreek Tatua sort of comment,
what are you going to say? Like, hey, I got a big guy that can't catch and a bunch of crappy receivers. Like,
get out of here. All right. Aaron Rodgers on going from Adams to Lazard. I mean, it's always tough from going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. Jab back at the Derek Carr comments from Devontae Adams.
Yep. Or Devontae at Derek Carr. Yeah.
And then Aaron Rodgers on NFL Network. Romeo Dobbs. It's Dobbs, not Dubs, by the way. If anybody struggles, I saw a little tidbit that he posted. Dubes. It does kind of look like Dubs, but he said Dobbs has had a really nice start to camp, getting a lot of attention based on some of the plays he's made, like the approach. Very understated kid, very humble kid. We all feel really good about Romeo and the start he's off to. So we're hearing a lot of Romeo love in this offense. Yeah. And some preseason, not preseason, some have been calling for this when they drafted him 4th and cooked Christian Watson in the 2nd.
And Watson has had at least, maybe not more recently, but early in the year, Watson had a very, very hard start to camp.
Yeah. So
he had like 5 drops in a practice, I think it was.
And I think he might have even, I'll check on the injury. I think there might be some injury. Anyways, so if you're asking me, who am I picking in this wide receiver room? Also another little tidbit here, but we'll get to that in a second. If you're asking me who I'm picking in this receiver room, it's Allen Lazard. And I think the price is great. He goes roughly 90s to 105. I will double check that.
Yeah. I did have a draft last night where I'm going to say he went in the 80s, which I was keeping an eye on him. Yeah, he went like high. 80s, maybe 90, because I was watching him about the time when there was a few players on the board still. And I'm like, maybe, and he went, and it surprised me. I think he's still climbing.
A lot of camp love right now for Lazard.
Yep.
The dude put up 8 TDs last year, only about 400 yards. So he was efficient in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants to say we don't expect the same numbers, but it's Aaron Rodgers, and I completely expect similar numbers to that. Not that TD rate, but it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up the season with 9 or 10 this year.
And you probably expect a yardage jump, even if you're
I
not
have a yardage
calling
jump
for
in there.
like a massive yardage season. You got to build in a little bit of a jump. I mean, Devontae Adams is going.
I have them going for 75, 930, and 10 TDs.
Let me see what
That's where I got his line. I don't think that's too crazy.
I got him for. Oh, do I have Alan Lazard higher than you? I have him
No
for
way.
79, 970, and 10.
I think a lot of my metrics are a little bit lower that I need to bump them all up.
Okay.
I don't really want to call out my ranking of Alan Lazard. I'm not ready to go onto this hill yet, but it's high.
Okay.
I think Cody's are just high.
Brian's back.
See, Brian, when we did this before, I felt like yours and I's were about the same.
I feel like, Cody, that all of your rankings are just on the high side in terms of like yardage, not necessarily like where you have guys. Just like
total fantasy points.
no, I just meant comparatively. Like you and Mario might have Alan Lazard both at wide receiver 20, but your wide receiver 20 is like 950 yards, and Mario's might be like 750 or something.
Yeah, I think Cody's might be a little high. I think mine are a little low, and it's hard. That's where it makes it a little bit tough to compare apples to apples or apples to oranges. Wait, where's he on your list, Cody? Wide receiver what?
Mid-20s.
Yeah, see, we're the two opposite sides of the spectrum on how
Cody
we rank
has him
them.
at 28.
Yeah.
Mario has him at 21. Oh, sorry, wait, 14.
Brian, I just said I didn't want to tell anybody, and you had
too late.
Brian,
I'm right behind
Brian
you,
comes
so-
in putting chats on the screen, airing out dirty laundry.
Hey,
airing out dirty laundry.
Hey,
Long night, Brian.
long night.
You missed the story. You won't get to see it until you watch.
You have to listen back for what.
Do you guys know? I was just in there. So I ran out of the room while the intro was on because she was literally on top of the crib bars, straddling it, about to crawl out, screaming her head off. I go in, I hold her, we read some Pout Pout Fish. She falls asleep in my arms. I try and put her back. As soon as I put her in, rips the baby
Like a
monitor,
Pemmican.
pulls the cords out. Oh my God, dude. Then I laid down.
Probably scary. New house.
Yeah, I really do think that's what it is. She was literally falling asleep, like sitting up by herself. And then I'd try and sneak out, wake back up.
We said it was very on brand. So, I mean,
True.
we're called the Dad Bod
duty.
Fantasy Squad. You got
True.
some dad duties.
True.
Brian, go through this real quick because this was something that you there is the injury concern with
Yeah.
Christian Watson.
I had it all ready for you.
There you go.
Christian Watson. I think it's what's the most alarming thing is that he's on the pup. He says it's day by day, but his knee is feeling sore when he's running. And obviously, I think you guys already talked about this. We got the hype bus here.
Yeah.
And Christian Watson, everybody was pumped for him coming out. And all of a sudden, it's Romeo Dobbs that's taking over and getting all the love. We're up to date with the kids and the memes. And we got
The memes.
Yeah, we got our little buses going.
All right, last piece on this offense, and we got to get moving. And I did a cool thing. AJ and AJ. Get it? Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon.
Damn.
See what I did there? I'm so clever, man.
I assume you already talked about your love for Funyuns.
No, I haven't. And I don't think we'll get to I've
Okay.
talked about Tunyon enough. I don't think we'll get to him. That love has kind of started fading a little bit. I haven't really adjusted my rankings on it, but the coming off the ACL is making
He's not healthy yet. He's really not.
Okay, so Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Are you targeting both in drafts, just
No.
one, or neither? Let's go with you first, Brian.
Yeah, I'm already talking, so might as well. Just one. That's AJ Dillon. I don't hate Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones going at 9 overall or 9th running back off the board. AJ Dillon's going 25th running back off the board. I think they're going to put up very similar numbers this year. AJ Dillon's a stud. They're probably going to run more. I'm all in on AJ Dillon, as I have been for the past 2 years.
So, Cody, this has to hurt you because this is your guy.
No,
Aaron
I
Jones.
think. Yeah, no, he is. Aaron Jones has been my guy for a long time. I own him in Dynasty, and I still like. Oh.
Sorry, I thought
I
we
didn't
were
know this
going
was coming. Yeah.
the sad Cody music for Brian just ripping apart Aaron Jones.
Here's where it is sad. I think the days of Aaron Jones being what he was in 19 and 20 are gone. And
Yeah,
that's
for
sad.
sure.
But I think what he did last year, which was a number one running back, is an incredibly repeatable season. He didn't even have 800 yards rushing. He had 799 rushing, 391 receiving, a total of 10 touchdowns. And, obviously I'm kind of painting the idea that I think he's going to be, continue to be used in a receiving role, which I think makes him still a really relevant fantasy option. Last 3 years, 49, 47, and 52 catches. He's got 50 catches written all over him again to me. And if that's the case, you don't have to run the ball a whole lot to be a borderline RB1.
Yeah, the only thing that gives me pause with that is that stat that we keep picking at is with the two top 12 guys in the same season. And I think in the last, 12 seasons?
That's receiving.
No. There's running back too. Running back's even worse. The only time it's happened in the past 10 years is Mark Ingram and Kamara.
Oh, yeah, no, I was actually going the other way with it. Like I would think it almost never happens with running backs.
I thought you were still trying to make
I don't
the
see an
case
RB1
for Aaron
AJ
Jones
Dillon
being,
being
I don't see an RB1 AJ Dillon season.
No, I don't either. But I'm just saying I see AJ Dillon cutting into Aaron Jones' work enough. Like, I think it's going to be a straight 50-50 split. Like, I don't think Aaron Jones is going to get enough work. Like, I think he'll be right outside, like maybe like RB 13 to 16.
Just a quick tidbit. One of my favorite stats that I've been doing for Travis Etienne. Let's see if I can have it pulled up real quick.
I just think. Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were.
No, go ahead.
I was going to buy you a little time, but I should let you tell you your stat first.
Well, last 11 seasons, there's been 7 RBs who have had 50 to 70 receptions, 170 to 200 carries. Their finishes RB 6, 8, 11, 13, 15, 16, 18.
That 11 is Aaron Jones from last year.
It's a little bit, this hits different with Travis Etienne when you're hearing the story compared to Aaron Jones.
Got to make everything.
That tells us
Etienne.
Aaron Jones should have a floor of RB 18, which wouldn't be good enough to where he's being drafted.
No, that'd be a big loss. Yeah.
But he also could have a ceiling of 6. Because that's where we're probably, I would think all three of us are probably in that vicinity of 50 to 70 reception, 170 to 200 carries.
I even think that's, I think that's fair. And I think that's fair. He's just so productive with every carry and everything he gets. That what I was going to say is I think he can be the bottom of that range and be a borderline RB1. I think
especially
he can
if the TDs are there.
If he can, what they always are though. I mean, the guys. I mean, he's had 10 plus TDs for probably 4 straight years.
It's pretty insane. He'll have that blow up game, 4 TD.
Yeah.
Game.
Yeah.
Does that like
and those kind of hurt. I mean, we talk about how much concentration, and those do happen with him some. I don't know.
Those
Yeah, I
happen
think
a lot with him. I feel like he's a guy that will win you like 2 games easy per year, 2 matchups. I mean,
he really doesn't get that much work. He's just so efficient with it. You think about 170 carries and 50 catches. Let's say those are the numbers because that's what he did last year. That is not that many touches a game.
No, and he finished high.
Yeah.
What is it? What did he finish? RB 12?
9 or 11. Yeah. It's 9 or 11. I can't remember which one it is.
We'll keep this train moving. We'll go over to the Lions. Brian had a
talk about the Lions. You guys want to talk about the Lions?
We're going to go to them.
Not really. I'm sure Rob and Alex talk about him so much.
Brian, hit us with this quote that you found.
So basically just Calvin Johnson, who, I mean, he hasn't really come out and supported the Lions in anything they've done since retiring that much. Like, he hasn't gone out of his way. But he told ESPN that he's willing to mentor rookie Jameson Williams. He said, "I don't mind being that guy to help guys alleviate the learning curve, especially with him being drafted so highly. So it's a lot of high expectations on him. I know what comes with that." So it sounds like Jameson Williams already going to have a Hall of Fame mentor. So that helps.
Hall of Fame career.
Hall of Fame, sure. So that definitely is going to hurt Amon-Ra St. Brown, don't you think?
Well, that's what I have. I am not as near as high on Amon-Ra St. Brown as Robbie is. But remember, Jameson will probably be out for the start of the season, if not half.
A couple days ago, the report I saw was he is nowhere close.
Yeah, I think it was he was one of the guys that had surgery in January.
Yeah.
So let's look at this offense a little bit first.
So also, hold on, let me pause you real quick. Did you know that they were going to be the Hard Knocks this year?
I mean, maybe I probably wasn't excited.
I saw because Jared Goff, there was something because Jared Goff was on Hard Knocks with the Rams, so that it was a thing.
So he
saw
was
him passing.
Yeah, and also Mario, can we please refer to this appropriately? This is the Goffense.
The Goffense. I was wondering who changed this, and I thought I typoed it. How would this Goffense look? And are we sure that's not the lines midway through? This is for sure the start one.
What
for Hard Knocks? It's
you mean the in-season one? No,
Yeah.
I think it starts in like 5 days. I'm pretty sure it's the Lions.
Is it? I love
pretty
Hard
sure.
Knocks. It's my favorite thing. If Amon-Ra looks good in Hard Knocks, I will move him up in my ranks. Did it with Darren
Of course
Waller.
you will. You
Worked
do
out
it all
great.
the time.
Every other time, it probably hasn't worked out. So we have some Jared Goff love in our Dad Bod crew. Not here, probably on the show.
Nope.
So we're not really going to talk about his fantasy relevance. I think you can argue there's some value where he's going, and it's not a terrible dart throw because it's so late in drafts. But I don't think we're going to get into that today. Can he sustain fantasy relevant players in this offense? When I'm talking about that, let's talk about the receivers. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams eventually, DJ Chark, and the one that I'm having the most trouble projecting.
Hockey Hawk.
Eddie Hawk. Struggling. I'm having some tough times ranking them. So, Cody, I'm going to start with you. Give a breakdown of the receivers and then move to Baby Hawk if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What
So
are you
I
doing?
guess to answer your initial question, Goff is not a quarterback that I worry about an inability to support weapons. I know it wasn't good last year, but when he has, a nice rundown of weapons, I think he's been able to produce fantasy relevance for those weapons. So I don't think he's necessarily this gigantic limiting factor. I'm not chasing Jared Goff because I still don't think it'll be there for, fantasy relevance for him. But it doesn't, Jared Goff in and of himself doesn't scare me away from these other players. I guess I'd like your guys' thoughts on that before we even go further.
It's a lot. It's a lot of different weapons for me now. And yeah, he did it in LA for a year or 2 years.
See, I like
hard to
kind
see.
of like the more weapons.
But the only thing is that I feel like the weapons that were in LA were a lot better than the weapons that are here. I mean,
Maybe that's
DeAndre
the big
Swift
question.
is
What do
pretty
you
much
think of
better
the
than any running back they had on the Rams, but the
not
receivers,
early.
you're not beating
What?
Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods.
Wait,
Brian just said Swift. Brian just said Swift's better than Gurley. Brian just said Swift is better than Gurley.
yeah, he for sure did.
Long term,
By a mile.
yeah, probably. I mean, Gurley had 2-3 good years, and then his
Yeah,
knees
those are the
blew
Jared
up.
Goff years, though.
They are. You're right. And you know what? I do feel like a fool after saying that because I was
it happens.
honestly
We all
only
do it.
thinking Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers and
Hold up.
Now
Stop
it's
it.
you're
Stop
hurting.
it.
Darrell Henderson.
Wait, let's not get too carried away. So
Now I've
back
got
to
a
the
problem.
receivers, Brian. You're not in on any of these guys. Not even
No,
your boy
I'm-
Baby Hawk.
Baby Hawk, I'll take.
He's going.
I'll take him late, but I mean, am I in on him? Dynasty, I'm definitely in on him. I think this is the year he kind of makes a jump. At least I hope it is. I haven't, he's
We
one of those
haven't seen
guys.
that jump.
I have him pretty much in the second tier, with the other guys that are pretty athletic and could make a jump. The Mike Gesicki's, Cole Kmet, Freiermuth, although Freiermuth is going to be hindered by quarterback play, I think. I love Hawkinson. I love him.
You do.
I'll take him this year.
Rob loves ARSB. Cody and I are like, we're out pretty much. Oh,
I feel like I'm.
I didn't see this.
This is funny, Mario, because these are,
This is
love
Schultz. This is Schultz easily for me. Yeah.
It's Schultz for
better
me, but I
QB.
won't say easily.
The
Better
way I have it ranked as well,
less weapons.
I also have Schultz higher. Schultz was a dog last year.
Here's the thing with Hawkinson. I don't, I think the argument that somehow, work's going to go down because of the weapons, I don't really think that. Amon-Ra was
the
there.
weapon.
Amon-Ra was there last year. Jamison Williams, who knows how much time he's going to miss. I don't see this big competition for work that I think is kind of being painted. I don't really envision this offense that way.
You're talking
Well,
about
and
a rookie wide receiver.
This is something you've brought up on the show before, Mario, and that's that Amon-Ra only had his time in the sun when Swift and Hawkinson were both out. I think Hawkinson is that guy in the offense. I think they want to use him. And I've read a lot of reports out of camp that they're using him in different ways, or at least he's saying they're, utilizing him in all these different ways and everything. And so, I mean,
this is where I'm having troubles with all of these guys, though. And it even makes me have some concern about Swift. I think they're all pulling from each other.
I don't worry necessarily on that part. Brian, what you said there in using Hawkinson different ways, that's where I was going to head with this, is I don't worry about the work. And he had 60 catches in 12 games. Like, that's like a 90 catch pace-ish, 61 catches. And so that was never the issue. 4 touchdowns in 12 games isn't great, but in a full season, you're talking 6+. It's not a great number, but it's a survivable number. He's got to get better targets. He averaged 9 yards a catch. That is absolutely atrocious. It shows 0 of his athletic ability that he was drafted so highly for. Like, they got to use him better than 9 yards a catch. That is the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, the worst part about that too, Cody, is this is a stat from Rob. It's been 40 games since we've seen a 100-yard game. You don't necessarily need that from tight ends.
Tight ends.
For
you'd
that
like to see
long?
Yeah, you like to see one. I just think everything's there except for the fantasy relevant opportunities. I'll say it that way. It just feels like, hey, let's throw it 4 yards to TJ Hawkinson. Like, use him. You draft him in the first round. Send him on a fade route once, a post, anything. Like, use him.
I do love this coach.
He has great highlights.
love Dan Campbell. I think he's turning around this team. I've already expressed my love about Swift. He was RB5 weeks 1 through 11 before his injury in week 12. I have him super high at RB3. He's one of the running backs that I expect to jump up the most because I think he's still going to be used in this pass catching work and also going to be used in the rushing game a little bit more. I know I'm crazy high on him. Did you guys have any thoughts on him before we move on to the Vikings?
My only thought is this. I love the player. I love the story. It's an Aaron Jones type of story. Not necessarily that there's competition, but it's that type of role where you're talking, you want to see 170 to 200. You said that 170 to 200 carries and those 50 to 70 receptions. That's what you're looking for. For me, I probably can't put an RB that I have legitimate injury concerns about quite that high. Like, I probably hedge a little more, but I love the role. That role is like the sweetest thing in fantasy. I love that role.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think I pretty much agree with everything Cody's saying. There's not really any competition there for him. He's going to be getting work. The injury concerns are an issue, obviously. He's incredibly efficient. He's just a little guy. And I mean, I can say little, like these guys aren't all huge
Jack now.
monsters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm repeating.
I just think there's a lot of guys that I would rather have around that area. Like Aaron Jones is one of them. I'd rather go Aaron Jones just because I feel safer with that offense.
Yeah.
You compare them. I don't even know if it's close to a decision you might have to make.
Swift is RB8 and Aaron Jones is 9.
It's a 1-2 turn decision.
Yeah.
If you were 1-2 turn, you compare them. Ish. I mean, close.
Yeah.
Mario, I said this. I'm kind of going to repeat something, but I think it still holds true for me, and it's why I have him ranked at RB9, even though I probably like the player more than RB9. I don't want what you're projecting to happen. I think if they give him the work it takes for him to be RB3, this season ends very poorly for DeAndre Swift. And so I can't project him for a season I don't want him to have. I don't want 230 carries. I don't want 64 catches with it. I want that 175 carries and that 55 catches, and he'll be a low-end RB1, and I think that's the perfect workload for this player. So it scares me to project what I don't want.
Yeah, I don't have him doing that much on the rushing. I actually have him higher in the receiving game, which is questions that I've been asking you guys about.
I mean, honestly,
these receivers.
Do you guys think Jamal Williams is going to get as much work as he's gotten in the past with Detroit?
I think it'll be comparable. I think it's smart to use him.
It's the junk work. It's the between the 20s.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But that's the
Cam Akers work,
That should be like the most beneficial thing for Swift is to use Williams.
Yep.
For
Yep.
all these RBs that are like that, this is the ETN, the Aaron Jones. We're okay with that. If you're going to be catching passes, I have him at a ridiculous amount. I have him at 71.
71.
I have him at 71 receptions, which is a hard projection. But if we looked at last season, I think he had 60, and he didn't even play the whole season. But there was no weapons. So I understand. Maybe I have to reevaluate. Maybe I have to see what it looks like in the beginning. But right now I have him at 71. It seems like an easy number to hit because he's so explosive. It's a guy that they like to go to. Let's go to the Vikings. Let's keep it rolling.
You
Brian.
see me rolling.
Let's keep it sailing.
Keep it chugging.
You're the worst. This is not a hype train moment.
I
So our little
hear
news segment. I couldn't really find anything about the Vikings because all the stories are just whether Kirk Cousins is good enough or not, and lots of hype about Kellen Mond winning the backup role, which I don't know why Vikings fans are so pumped about that. But
it is a weird thing to be pumped about.
Right?
Like that's like as a Browns fan, like, wow, Josh Rosen might make the roster. I can't believe
they're
it.
they're like, finally, we have a solid number 2 quarterback.
Yeah.
It's like that. I don't know. It just seems weird.
Especially because
but the
Kirk
other-
is like always playing. He's never
right.
sitting out.
But the one piece of news I did find that I was pretty hyped about was Jared Allen. If you guys remember him, he was
The
inducted
defensive
into
end.
the Vikings Ring of Honor.
Always wore a headband.
Yeah, number 69. He had the mullet. Yeah. So congratulations to him. I
Yeah.
was a big fan of Jared Allen. I
He's a
think his
madman.
sack
He
record
was great.
his sack record was 22 in a season, and their new rookie DNs that he's going to break that. So we'll see if that happens.
Keeping it moving to fantasy. Kirk Cousins has a new head coach from pass-friendly LA. I know he's your later round QB, Cody, right?
More Robbie than me. I'm okay with him though. He's a guy I like to pair with a Trey Lance, for example, a high upside and a safe player. That would be a.
He's got to be your top 3 QBs this year, and not meaning how you have them ranked, but the 3 that you probably would draft the most to me is probably Trey Lance, Derek Carr. It goes probably Derek Carr,
Stafford.
Stafford. and
But
then
but
Trey
yeah,
Lance,
he's
Kirk
there.
Cousins.
It's fair to say I like Kirk Cousins. That's fair. I would be
Yeah.
disappointed though if you tell me I came into a season with Kirk Cousins and not a flyer. That would be a disappointing situation to me. He's a safety blanket for me.
He could be a flyer.
He's just a safety pick.
Yeah.
This is the argument I want to make though. He could be a flyer.
Great Deshaun pairing. That's a good example of one.
Yeah, he's gonna go too rich for me. I still think it.
You think Deshaun's going to go too rich for you? Yeah. I mean, Kirk is a good pick late in a draft if you're waiting
QB
for
15.
a suspension. Yeah.
Right.
'Cause,
That's
like,
what I meant.
he's
Yeah. If
probably
I got to
not
start
even getting
Kirk for 6
drafted,
weeks
or-
until Deshaun comes back,
Yeah.
I'm completely happy with that QB situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Kirk is more of a flyer than you're giving him credit for. We have a new offense coming in. We're not going to get the stale old man Zimmer offense anymore. He has weapons that I want you guys to talk about. We're going to skip over JJ because we're all pretty pumped for him. I guess just a yes or no. Is JJ your wide receiver 1 this year, Cody? 2, Brian?
I haven't won. Yeah.
I have him 2 right now, but I think I'd draft him over Cooper Kupp. So
I would.
My wide receiver tier, this is where I'm at this year. And it's strange. It's Cooper Kupp, a pretty big margin, Justin Jefferson, and then another pretty big margin.
Yeah.
Which I know
that's your
sounds
tier
strange.
2 by a
I
lot.
mean, my tier is just those 2 and then
Yeah.
big margin
Yeah.
and then everybody else. I do think the Vikings have the best weapons in the division because you got Dalvin Cook, you got
JJ Thielen.
Irv Smith, you got JJ and Thielen, even though Thielen's getting up there in age and he could fall off a cliff for all we know.
He really could.
And the Lions could honestly take that title like next year if they kind of take a step forward this year. The point I'm trying to make is just that Kirk Cousins has all this around him. It's time for them to actually kind of do something instead of going like 9-7, 10-6. Let's see it, Kirk.
Yeah, so that's it. And we already hit on JJ enough, especially because of time.
Yeah.
Are you guys targeting Adam Thielen, or would you rather take a dart throw to touch this offense by going for a guy like KJ Osborne? Thielen goes in the 70s. I want to say KJ 70s overall. I'll find it while you guys answer this. KJ Osborne goes wide receiver 88.
So Go ahead, Cody.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say it's going to depend on roster construction for me. So
Thielen's wide receiver 28, by the way. Sorry.
That might be exactly where I have him ranked. Let me see where I have him ranked. I feel like that's really close.
While Cody looks at that,
31,
I
31.
am probably not touching Thielen in like any league just because of the guys that are going around that area. I'd much rather have those other guys. Like I see
Cortland
Ayuk
Sutton.
around there. I don't want
A-Rob.
Gabe Davis. I'm not a fan of Gabe Davis. I'd rather have A-Rob. Lazard's even lower. Like there's some guys that are lower than Thielen that
Feel like they have higher
I kind of
upside.
think Thielen at this point is just almost just a
touchdown
name.
dependent.
Or
He's also touchdown dependent. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But you're bringing up the offense also. The offense changing. So who knows that Thielen's even going to be getting those same red zone targets anymore.
That's a good point.
It is a good point. I would be in the camp of saying he will because I think he's been so good in that role. Here's the spot I like Thielen for, and I'm not chasing Thielen. He's my wide receiver 31. But I think he is just such a beautiful bye-week flex or bye-week fill-in because the guy has a great chance at 10 touchdowns. I know it's a huge number, but he just keeps doing it every year. And so are the wheels going to fall off at some point? Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to bet on it at this moment. I mean, it just keeps happening. And so when I think of a bye-week fill-in, you're looking for those 10 or 12 points. There is no better way to get it than a guy who has a 60% chance at a touchdown. And so I love that
60% chance of a touchdown.
I mean, it'd be about that.
He's 31 this year, but he had a
teams.
later start to his career. So,
and he's playing an old man role. It's okay.
Yeah,
age is okay for his role.
His role isn't breaking off these huge Ted Ginn sort of receptions or Will Fuller.
Yeah, but so this might be, I haven't seen anything about this, but he had an ankle injury last year that he required surgery on. How's that coming? Anybody hear anything about that so far?
No, but I think the lack of news would tell me that it's not anything. But I guess I
mean, that's also what I think. But I mean,
by the way,
haven't seen anything.
Quick, you laughed at my 60%. I apologize. It's 58.8, Brian.
I just thought it was funny. It's like a tight end stat almost.
It does. Well, that's a good way of saying it. I love that you said that, B, because he feels. Obviously, I know he's not a tight end. I know he's not running tight end routes. But it feels like you're chasing a tight end in some ways.
But like a better tight end than tight ends.
Yeah. Maybe they should just give him a tight end designation and we can take him as, a top 5 tight end.
All right. So, yeah, Cody, your no news is good news. Thielen last week reported that he is healthy going into his 10th season. He's participating in OTAs and he reports his ankle. Feels great.
Okay, we'll take that. That's good.
That's as good as you can get.
Wait, yeah.
So making sense of the backfield or not making sense of it because we know who the starter is.
Yeah.
But my question for you guys is Dalvin Cook goes as running back 6. I have noticed in almost all my best ball, any redraft, any dynasty, I fade him. And I don't know why it is. I'm not very high on him. Cody, how do you feel about Dalvin Cook this year?
I kind of feel myself
at this spot.
Well, I think the price is fair. I think it's right. I think that's where Dalvin Cook should be. But I find myself in the same situation. I see him on the board and I just don't want to draft him. But I don't.
No, there's Najee, Joe Mixon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I have like
JJ.
some underlying injury trauma over the years that scares me. Maybe
and he's
that's
not
what
that
it is.
injured. Like he had an
He's really
ACL
not.
injury and he misses maybe 1 to 2 games a year.
Yeah, he's
But
not as injured as, yeah.
Last year was rough because he played with the injury. So
this might be a guy that, as drafts get closer, continues to fall and ends up being like a home run pick for somebody at like 10 or 11 or 12 or 16 or in the second round. I mean, it's totally possible.
If we start seeing guys like, let's say it's Swift and Mixon and who else would be right there?
Fournette,
Chubb.
Fournette or Chubb. If you see those
Fournette's
guys
not up there, but Chubb. Yeah.
It does get to be really interesting, B. That's a great thought to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, just because there's not news and it's kind of just same old, he's kind of being slept on because of that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to take him at that 8 overall, though, because you're looking at.
For sure it is.
Here's what I struggle with is we got Najee that goes right around there. I love Najee. Joe Mixon, who I know I'm lower on that I want to make higher in my rankings. So Joe Mixon, I'd rather have. Wide receiver JJ is the other guy there. Like, it's hard to draft him at this spot.
I took Derrick Henry at 8 in a draft last night, so that's another guy that's there sometimes.
Yeah,
at
that's
point.
crazy.
And I take Derrick Henry over him. I do. I just
agreed.
It's just is so fun to watch Derrick Henry just run over people.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at like Cook versus Chubb, though, you have to take Cook. I mean, that's not even a question. I know you said that they're going near each other, but Chubb just gets so few opportunities where Dalvin gets pretty much everything.
Yeah, Dalvin's – no, I was saying like if he started to slip, that's where he would go. Dalvin goes 8th. Chubb goes 15 right now. If it does come down to – that's my line because like I think I still take Swift over him. I wouldn't necessarily jump. Like if I'm 8, I'm not taking Swift. But if he was there at 13, I don't know. I have Swift ranked higher.
Such a
probably
weird
go Swift.
Psychology. Like if you're drafting 8 and they're both there, you'll take Cook is what you're saying?
No, I would go away from both of them. I would go JJ or Najee. Like I would have to hope there's another guy there that I wouldn't have to even look at that. But
Pull
like
that trigger.
if you're telling me at 12 there's Dalvin Cook and Swift and like a lot of the guys that I like are gone, I'm still going to struggle with that pick. I would probably, because I know I'm not. Well, I guess in that case I'd probably be getting both. I don't even need answers. If I'm at 12, I'm getting both of them. And I would love that.
I wonder why we do feel like this. Because like even when I see people draft Dalvin Cook, I don't even like bat an eye at it. It's not like, oh, nice pick. Like they almost could take him 15th overall and I wouldn't even hardly notice. It's almost like he's under the radar now in a weird way.
It is.
It is a little bit, but like the ADP doesn't reflect that yet. Like that's not still selling me like his ADP doesn't sell me.
Yeah.
If his ADP starts to drop, it becomes a different story. Like you think about Alvin Kamara going at 18. Why is he going there?
Because he's going to be suspended.
Well, we talked about it, Brian. He probably isn't. That's a good point, though. That probably is why his ADP. Aaron Jones at 21. Lenny at 24. Like, I guess Dalvin still has the baked in, like, I am an RB1 at times.
And maybe why I ignore it is just because it is so high. Because like at 8, maybe it's just that it is so high. Maybe if someone did get him at, maybe I'm thinking poorly. Maybe somebody did get him at 15, I would look differently at it. Maybe it's just because I see him so early and I'm just like, meh.
It seems
maybe
tough.
That's 100% what it is.
New offense. We're expecting this offense to throw a ton. That makes it a little bit tough too. Yep. We're not going to get into Irv Smith. We're just going to kind of close out with the Vikings. I've talked about Irv Smith as my breakout player. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts. Did you want to hit him?
You're the tight end whisperer. I'll let you have it. I don't see it.
Love
but
it. I've already talked about him.
Who am I to question you on tight ends?
I just think he's due for 90 touches, 90 targets, and it's going to be on an offense that is busy handling Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Thielen. So I think he becomes open from that. It looks like his Alabama season from 3 years ago. It's kind of my quick elevator pitch on Irv Smith.
Or not quite that high.
He is.
He is
my tight end 9.
You know, the nice part about something like that, and when we talk about this stuff all the time, that gives you a great opportunity to take him one of the last rounds of the draft and get for you great value.
Yeah, I love it. He goes higher in best ball, about tight end 15 or something, but
he could even be undrafted in a lot of leagues.
Oh, for sure. I think he will be.
I think you guys are a little. I think you're
not quite that
crazy.
Dude, come on. You're thinking like
144. That's not undrafted.
That's drafted in most leagues, I guess.
Yeah, that's 12.
That's like the very
round.
last. Well, okay, you're right. I'm thinking there's 12 rounds for whatever reason. But I don't know. I just feel like a lot of guys that don't pay much attention, like Polly's league. I feel like they're all gonna be like, who's Irv Smith? And they're going to go away from him and go with the more established guys that have been in the league a little bit longer.
Maybe. If you could get him, I think 12 round is good value. I think there's always those guys late.
You're right. Those fantasy players are taking Evan Ingram there. You know, it's the name I heard.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. He's 173. So he is right there.
Yeah.
That wraps up our episode on the NFC North. What was I about to say? Wednesday. No, we're August 10th. We have our big
week
show.
From Wednesday. Yep.
Jesus.
Make sure you're tuning in. It's at 6:45. If you're not following us on Twitter at DadBodFS, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, DadBod Fantasy Squad, we'll be posting this recording on all the major streaming platforms for podcasts. For Cody, for Brian, peace.
Brian, don't get
Congratulations,
lost in that
Paulie and
mansion.
Jacob.
Don't get lost in the mansion.